So at the present, we have achieved this, this profound basis, from which, if one wishes to achieve, this human rebirth and in the future lifetimes, it is possible from this basis. And also, if we wish to achieve the everlasting peace or the enlightened state, then that can be also achieved from this basis. Achieve the liberation or the enlightenment, then as a basis, as a requirement condition, to engage So, in order to engage into the path which leads to the everlasting peace or happiness, the basis would be the training in the moral disciplines or the moral codes. So whether one is trying to achieve the self-liberation or the one is trying to achieve the highest enlightenment, then the practices which leads to that state should be carried on, having basis of the moral discipline or the practice in morality. So, whatever remaining part of life that we have left, then, even if one is unable to totally give up the worldly concerns and fully dedicate into the spiritual practices, even one cannot do at that level, then at least try, to put some percentage into practices, or try as much as one could. So, when we talk about, to put some percentage of time into practice, does not mean it is kind of obligation that you must have to do or you must have to engage into these practices. It's not something like that, but basically all of us wishes to have happiness and do not wish even slightest form of suffering. So from that point of view, then we need to engage into the Dharma practices. Dharma practice means to create or to accumulate virtuous deed or virtuous action. So depending on how much virtuous deeds we do, then the result will be respectively according to the cause that we have created in the future lifetimes to come. So, the sufferings, or, the undesirable suffering, we do not wish even during our dream times, in the dream period. So therefore, try to avoid, the negative actions which are the causes of, the suffering result as much as possible, and try to accumulate or create, the virtue which are the causes of happiness as much as possible. So, during our practices, try to minimize the delusion and the disturbing thoughts and then the negative karmas as much as possible, and try to develop the motivations always to carry on virtuous deed and to remain or maintain in the process of law of cause and effect and so forth. Then, with such a motivation, then the increase, our activities will increase under the influence of the right virtuous actions. So, the measure of undertaking the practice or having engaged into the spiritual practice should be, or the signs of having engaged into the spiritual practice should be that one is one has subdued one's mind. This should be the principal sign one should develop. Beside this, the signs such as able to elevate in the space, or able to fly, or able to show different signs physically are not that important. Which we do not need actually. So when we talk about subduing the enemies, there's no external enemies in real sense. Subduing enemies means trying to subdue the three poisonous delusions. If one is able to fight with that, or one is able to subdue that, then one has actually subdued the enemies, so-called enemies. So the whole point is to understand, and subdue the three the enemies of the three personal delusions, and try to make relation with all sentient beings, or try to make a close feeling, or try to develop close sense of feeling upon all sentient beings. If one know these two techniques, then one will know how to start or how to initiate into the practices. So if one is able to carry on such a practice, in one hand subduing the enemies of the delusions, in the other hand relating or developing sense of close feeling upon others, then that means one is benefiting for oneself as well as for others. That means one is fulfilling one's purpose of taking this life. But on the other hand, for some people, then once one's mind is very strongly, the interest to practice Dharma is very strong, then at that point one might think, that is kind of disturbing for one's life. That kind of thought also might develop. But if one is really pure practitioner, then one should avoid the activities of this life, try to avoid. But if one is not a pure practitioner, then we have to divide our time half, we have to also put our effort for some worldly activities as well. So as explained earlier, having found this perfect basis, if one is unable to carry on the practices, whatever amount that one is able to, then such a basis or such a rebirth will not last that long. So with understanding that what is beneficial for oneself and what is harmful for oneself, then one should at least choose our few points which are beneficial for one's life. So if one is unable to carry on the practice, or if one is unable to select the things which are beneficial for one's life, then waiting for next life to come would be very difficult.
어떻게 단조지 밀리터가 감들이 아니 마시나 개와 치만이 신이 안다 저거 관련 교수로 인상 개와 치타나 근데가 배치도야 니가 나도 언제 사단 요 말을 간다 언제 유리도 안 치고
As quoting from Shantideva's work, he says, if you don't practice the path now, having achieved such a perfect human rebirth, then such a basis is extremely difficult to achieve in the future.
제가 옛날 가지 생기 하나 말은 제가 저 관련 교수로 인상 어떻게 이런 거 나도 비게 좀 지금 막 편자를 텐들이야 아니 가져 두두지 더 두고지 지와다
So he also says that if you don't accumulate or practice something which is beneficial for future lifetimes to come, then such an opportunity one will never encounter again in the future times.
다치에 대한 배다 기와치만 배우라도 먼저 함에배 느낀 타야 땀다. 근데 안 주고 배는 일을 니 바인자 일을 그라 타바타 니 위에다 주고 배 폴라 타르던 것은 제도 많이 봐.
So whenever one engages into the practice or undertakes the practices, then that should not be merely for the attainment of the higher rebirth in the future lifetimes, and also the result of the definite goodness, what's known as the liberation and enlightenment, then one shouldn't use or dedicate for the attainment of the liberation only for one's sake.
단 나가냐 배심지 밴난 같다냐 배심지 다 탐지는 하고 쇼두야 가와체요 말에 신나는 알아서 배롱바지 사전에 미강으로 쇼두야 가면 더 왕으로 쇼체바 인간에 다리 직니 가고다 이거 바자 신부션 신지 통자가 봐 판도시야 바자 신부다니 공산주의 생겨라 신부들이 말아서 요거 말에 말아서 그 커뮤니티요.
So, instead, then, one should cultivate, the motivation and the altruistic attitude or the bodhicitta, which actually we do not need to buy or go for shopping for such an altruistic attitude. It's just a matter of developing within us, considering about all other sentient beings who lack such an opportunity to engage into the practices. We have achieved this unequal or uncommon opportunities which are not achieved by infinite sentient beings. Even compared to one country, then infinite beings lack such an opportunity. So this time, our life fully dedicating for their sake, truly, using for their benefits and for their welfare.
전주에서 가서 선제 당시 내가 건도 가면 공부하자 타도 산재 공부하려 아니 배랑 지구 배는 도토야 그랬음 전대적인 인도 신부들이야 아니 전주 생선 멘탈이 그랬어.
So altruistic attitude or the bodhicitta means the sense of determination which are wishing to either lead all sentient beings finally temporarily to the higher rebirth and ultimately into the enlightened state, and thought also seeking to achieve such a state by oneself for the sake of all these beings.
그냥 배는 ranchugo 배송아 배트니라는 배송게 공부하고 있으니 사바도 뭐 아니 상하냐는 생기지나 그랬지 그랬어.
Such a strong determination or such a resolution is called the bodhicitta. Especially if one is tantric practitioner, then one's bodhicitta should be much more stronger, that wishing to achieve the enlightenment in this very lifetime, in this very short lifetime, for the sake of all these other sentient beings.
제가 저한테 내지 세월이 안 믿는 배가 추니야 당 상하나서 그래는 그래 다 산재가 배 산재가 참아나 그 비게는 사마다 자신 뭐지 미유리 자신 뭐지 당 그랬어.
So it is observing for their sake, it is dedicating for this entire sentient beings, these infinite sentient beings who are your object of observation. Then if you are reciting only one single mantra or name of the Buddhas, then fully dedicate towards that goal.
미유리 비가 자신 뭐지 와다 그와 인지 미유리 떨어진 거 사람 맞던데 미유리 자신 뭐 배는 지고랬어.
So even if one is unable to, create or do, infinite virtuous action, whatever amount that one is able to, then one should dedicate for these very vast objectives. For example, would be if you were to put a drop of tear, into the ocean, and although the tear is only one drop, but it will never extinguish or never ceases to exist until the ocean ceases to exist. So similarly, then whatever virtue that we do, if you dedicate for such a goal, then it will become a causes for such a goal, or to achieve such a goal. And on top of that, if one is able to gain the realization of emptiness, then one's virtuous action will be not destroyed by the anger. This mind or the wisdom realizing emptiness, or wisdom which realizes emptiness, is like the Vajra, like a diamond, very solid and very, very tough. Like the Vajra or the diamond, only outshines the other jewels, other precious substances. The other substance cannot, outshines the diamond. In a similar way, the wisdom understanding the emptiness can outshine, all these other negative poles, all these other attitudes or other qualities. The other qualities and the other negative poles, such as anger and attachment, cannot overpower or outshine the wisdom understanding the emptiness. So on the topic here, it's been requested on the perfection of the wisdom. So Venerable Angla Sankhikanto mentioned that the subject will reach up to the perfection of the samadhi or the concentration. So she will explain that later on. But I was requested to talk on the perfection of wisdom. So from my side, as best as I can and as best as my ability, I'll try to explain on that topic. So the topic on the samadhi or the concentration is known as the common quality for both Buddhists and non-Buddhists. Depending on that quality, you can also achieve such qualities such as clairvoyance and so forth, but it's not that astonishing. But nowadays, if one is trying to achieve such a quality, this kind of idea of the mind or the concentration, it is very hard to gain the realizations. But in the past, the beings, even they were not practicing, but the concentration is naturally occurred in them. So in the past, when the human lifespan was infinite, at that time in Tibet, in the world, in the universe, there was a king known as the This king known as the King Mangurwa. He was the first king in the universe.
다 제보 영어 과에 관해서 지단배 대공을 야니 면남들에 가서 밤에 여와 매버체. 네 살아 가와지 랑게 배 준주지 뭐시야 여봐서 준주지 배 난가를 파운드 배 여봐체. 아니 새도 배 새도 소라 와라 댐 먹어 봐체. 아니 배 여봐 인가 제보고야 매버. 간담절에 배 나멜에 네 맞을 때 온도가 미 가이서 그랬더니 내가 사자 그거 사자가 숨는데 새라 같은데 다 So,
that happened because in the past, there were no distinction, there were no differences between male and female. There was no such called male and female, and also the people of that time, or beings at that time, does not need to depend on the gross food. They can just live with their subtle food, and they don't have a sense of, clinging, and a sense of, jealousy, and sense of the grasping, and so forth. And then, later the times being degenerated, and then the minds of the beings are also degenerated, and then this sense of grasping and then clinging, and the miserliness were arose or generated in the mind of beings at that time. And then that time, there were no rules and no need of rules and the laws and so on. But suddenly, this degeneration came, and then the rulers happened, and then they invented certain rules and so forth. So some people, because they didn't live under such a rule in the past, so they were very much scared of the rules. So they escaped into the mountains and into the forest. And then because of that, then they also invented or composed so many different levels of scriptures. So it is therefore it is through this those beings who escape into the forest, then they compose all these scriptures or the tenets of the non-Buddhist school, such as realist and Samkhya and so on. So, not only that, in the past, then there were one practitioner kind of meditating on the samadhi or the, the concentration. Then one monkey happened to be nearby, and then he also pretended with that practitioner, like, sitting, and even the monkey developed the concentration in his mind. So in the past, even without relying on the method and the path, people do develop the concentration. But then, such as the shamatha and then the known as the karma binding of the mind, then has to depend on the the worldly path, or is known as the worldly path. Depending on those paths, then you can achieve these qualities. So after having achieved or depending on this karma binding of the mind or the shamatha, then one can actually suppress or overcome the gross levels of delusions. So, although, temporarily, depending on that quality or that method, one is able to, abandon the manifest delusions or the gross delusions, but later, when the karma to remain at that level is exhausted or extinguished, then again, they develop, and also they are unable to destroy the seeds of the delusions or the root of delusions. So they again, arise delusions in their mind. So in order to cut the root of the delusions, then we have to surpass the path on top of this. So normally, when you talk about the mind of renunciation and so on, if that word is difficult to understand for you, then is the renunciation means the sense of compassion upon yourself. Yourself, like developing the unbearable situation within the three realms of the cycle of existence, and then having compassion upon oneself, that how nice it oneself is free from such a sufferings. So if one sees that one is tortured by the sufferings of the three realms, and having sense of compassion upon oneself, that how nice if oneself is free from these sufferings. Such a compassion for oneself is called the mind of renunciation. So if one, do not wish the sufferings of the three realms, then the sufferings of three realms, is not invented or not created by anyone, or it does not come from the space or does not grow from the earth. Rather, it or the sufferings of the three realms has its own uncommon causes. So if we do not wish the sufferings of three realms, then we should trace back and search the cause. What are the cause, and then try to reverse or try to eradicate the cause. And once one is able to eradicate the cause, the root cause, then one is kind of free from the sufferings of two realms. For example, if you are able to put down the cause fire, then you don't have the effect smoke. So, usually, if you do not wish the sufferings of the three realms or the cycle of existence, then, we should try to abandon or eradicate the root or the root cause of the suffering. So the root causes are usually sometimes classified as 20 the secondary delusions, the 6 root delusions, and the very root of that, or the underlying root of that, is the self-grasping ignorance. So it is because of having these 20 secondary delusions and the 6 root delusions, and we are under the influence of these delusions, that is how we create the karma through our body, speech, and mind. So when we talk about karma, it's also part of our mind. Is one of the mental factors. or the one of the secondary minds.
그래서 그때 로 샤워만 더 저기 다가서 지나가 안 내가 내가 나시 말이 내 생각이 무슨 라관에 비교하다 천서 터지면 다 결이네 결이네 그 맨날 결이랑 안 내가 그랬어 되려야 돼요 말이 그래서 뒤년 배가 진주고 그 셈들이야 하는 내가
Normally when you talk about karma, it should be understood as a part of the mind. It's not the physical action that we perform. It's not that. Say suppose if someone is shooting with a gun, then that act is an action, but it's not the karma. Karma is the thought behind that action. There's a thought behind, in a simultaneous thought behind with that action is known as the karma. So whether it is a mental karma or physical karma or verbal karma should be posited one of the minds, in one level of the consciousness. So in order to clear away or in order to remove all these different levels of delusions, then we have to eradicate the underlying root cause, which is the eye grasping ignorance. So actually, in order to eradicate that delusions, then the method is the special insight. So as we know that in order to meditate on the special insight, you have to have all the informations and then these requirement conditions to practice that. A similar way, in order to engage into the practice of special insight, then you need all the requirement conditions and the merits. So the conditions are, first of all, try to get all the informations or on the teachings on emptiness or on the special insight which were taught by the Buddha, and then having direct discussions and clarifications with the teachers who have experience of this. And if you are able to, have these two conditions, then realization of emptiness is quite easy. So this topic of emptiness, we have to trace back to the sutra teachings which were taught by the Buddhas. Whatever teaching they represented, then if that is not traced back or if it is not originated from Lord Buddha or from the Shakyamuni Buddha, then no matter how profound it is, then it's not worth of it. So this topic or the teaching should, we should trace back to the sutra teachings of the Buddhas. So should be traced back to the perfection vehicle, sutra or the Prajnaparamita sutras, and then these are the classes. Then another work, the Abhidhamma teachings also comes under the category of the teaching on the wisdom. So, as it is taught by Shakyamuni Buddha, then we do not have the ability to comprehend meaning or to understand. So, to actually understand these topics, then we have to rely on the commentary of the different Indian pundits such as Nagarjuna, Aryadeva, Chandrakirti, and Buddha Palita, and so on. These masters, especially Nagarjuna, are predicted and prophesied by Buddha himself. So, following their commentaries and their explanations, if one is able to carry on very extensive studies, would be much more beneficial. So then, since the main topic is the special insight and training into the nature of training with the special insight is the wisdom. So there it explains how to undertake the practice in two different ways. One is meditative equipoise on the special insight, which is like a space, and then during the subsequent period, looking upon the phenomena like an illusion. In this two way, the topic is classified in this two way. So, as an object of this meditative equipoise, then it either classified into two different ways. Either you can exert as a true truth, or establishing the selflessness of the person and establishing the selflessness of the phenomena. So, when establishing the selflessness of the person, then first of all we need to identify what you mean by the person or the being. So when you talk about the person or the being, then there are many ways you can exert or posit it. There are some schools such as non-Buddhist school. They believe the person is something created by the the principle or the idol principle or the God, and which is something separate from the physical aggregates and so on. So then now within the Buddhist, talk about the school, within the Buddhist school, then there are four schools or four tenets. If it is a Buddhist school, then they do not exert I or the person is something separate from the aggregates. So within the Buddhist school, then some school exert that the continuing aggregate is a person, and some exert the continuum of consciousness as a person, and some exert the collections of the aggregates are the person.
뭐 마와테서 그다 간사데 때마두가 칼라만 인자는 비게다 다 봉보 중 봉보 다 비게 봉보 소바음 들으시 캐만가 간사 들으시 캐만만 들이요 말았어.
For example, schools like Southern Tika or the Vaivashikas, because they accept true existent phenomena. So if they do not assert the collections of the aggregates or the continuum of the aggregate as a person, then beside this, they have no choice to assert person being separate from that.
다 semzabaje yantra te thasene kansaga bigeta managa bigeta kunshinapsene skelang yoris.
So for like the Chitta Matrani school or the mind-only school, then they're they're a bit higher. Like they exert person, the basis of the consciousness, which is known as the mind basis of all being the person or the being, the continuum of the being.
다 오마란 주어지데 오마란 니세데 오마란 주어 생기데는 kansaga bigeta tamam bige 가서 다 신시기 남시 편시가 요ris.
So then, the Madhyamika school is again classified into two. There is the Southern Tika Madhyamika and the Prasangika Madhyamika. So the Southern Tika Madhyamika exert the continuing consciousness is the being.
다 지상 알아서 배 가사 생각에 이제 망쳐도 하고 이제 같이 가사 생각에요. 가사 생각 가르치 요라서는 나도 풍봉말이야. 아니 다 봤다래. 아니 와우 내가지고야. 아니 가사 쓰고
So when we talk about the person, some of you may have idea what person means, but in generally, person is the label or the imputation which is given upon the any of the five aggregates, and then the I which is labeled upon any of the five aggregates is known as the person or the being. So aggregate means collection of something. When you talk about aggregate, it means a group of something or collection of something. So we have collections of five groups. So the beings or the person like us, then we have all the five aggregates. And the beings in the formless realm, then that they lack the form aggregate. They have rest of the aggregates, but they lack of form aggregates. So if you do not know what are the five aggregates, then it is difficult for you to identify the basis of designation for the person. So usually when we talk about the physical aggregate or the form aggregate, then you have this outer form, inner form, and all these different qualities of the form which generates and perishes and so on. So all these collections put together is known as the physical aggregates or the form aggregates. So usually, within ourselves there are 6 elements. The four elements, and then the element of the space come to. Then all these skins and flesh and bone, or these are the element of the earth. And then all this liquid part, the blood and pus and so on, all these are the elements of the water. So then the heat which we have within our body is the element of the fire. And then since within ourselves, we have the wind energy, so that is regarded as the wind elements. So within ourselves there are 6 parts or 6 areas where it is vacuum or empty, so it refers to the element of space.
That come to say and take on the Ombo
and on top of these elements, then we have the 5 senses.
Then
these 5 senses plus the object of 5 senses are under the category of, the aggregate of form. So, collections of all these qualities is known as the aggregate of physical form. Then second aggregate is the aggregate of feeling.
That's what the Mishi, Nashi, and Ombomai, the Shebangalia, what the Daniel Function, what the Daniel Function. That was introduced to what for.
So altogether we have 18 different feelings. We have 3 feelings for each consciousnesses, for 5 sense consciousness, and then the mental consciousness. So each consciousness have 3 feelings, pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral feelings. So 3 times 6 makes the 18. So we have 18 different feelings. So all the collections of all these 18 different feelings makes the aggregate of feeling. And second is the aggregate of discrimination. Then likewise, then you have 6 discrimination, 6 levels of discrimination, respectively, with the 5 senses and the mental consciousness. So discrimination is the level of consciousness which is able to distinguish between, different objects, saying this is this and this is that. So such collections of consciousness or such a group of consciousness is known as the aggregate of discrimination. And then we have the aggregate of the consciousness. So there are 6 levels of main consciousnesses. There's 5 sense consciousnesses and then the mental consciousness. So these 6 together makes the aggregate of consciousness. So, we have this 51 mental factors or the 51 secondary consciousnesses. So, excluding the discrimination and the feeling, the rest are rest are known as the aggregate of compositional factors. And then beside that, the other qualities such as the permanent, and then the generation and the disintegrations of the such qualities within us are also comes under that category of the compositional factor. So these are the basis on which we label as a person. So although a person is dependent upon all these factors, all these objects, but then yet the eye grasping ignorant or the self grasping ignorant, doesn't perceive in that way. The eye grasping ignorant clings, and the person or the eye being existing independently and inherently from their own side and from their own right, and view in that way, and that's how we create, because of under the influence of this eye grasping ignorant, we create these different levels of karma, and that's how we keep circling over again and again in this cycle of existence. So such a grasping attitude or such a self-grasping attitude, the various levels, the gross level and the subtle levels. So among all these 4 levels of schools, then the Vaibhashika, such as Vaibhashika school, they do not exert the they do not exert the selflessness of the phenomena. They say if it is existent, then it is the self-existent phenomena. So since many teachers visits here and talks about the topics on emptiness, so if you know some idea of the theories of the lower school, it helps for you to understand the views of the higher school, and that helps to understand this the theories of the final view. So it is therefore in Shakyamuni Buddha himself did not talk from the beginning on the view of the Prasangika Madhyamika school or the final school. At the beginning he taught all these law schools, and then later he taught the Prasangika school and said that you shouldn't rely on the definite meaning, and instead you should rely on the interpretive meanings and so on. So there, Shakyamuni Buddha said that so it says that don't look upon the words, don't look upon the meanings, and then don't look upon the person, look upon what he talks about. And then don't look upon the definitive meanings. Look upon the interpreted meanings. And then don't look upon the phenomena. Look upon the persons. So the lower schools explain two levels of the self-grasping attitude and then the selflessness. So the first one is this self, which is empty or permanent and independent, and then the second is the self, which is substantial, self-supporting, existent, empty of that. So below the Southern Madhyamika school, then they believe and they assert that if one realizes this selflessness or the self which is empty of substantial, self-supporting, then one gets free from the suffering and one achieves the liberation. So above the Chittamatrin school or the mindfulness school, then they assert the selflessness of the other phenomena beside the person. So below the Prasangika Madhyamika school, then they assert that if one realizes such a selflessness, then one achieves the arhat of the hero and the solitary realizers. So the Prasangika Madhyamika do not accept that theory. Because Prasangika Madhyamika exerts such a selflessness being the gross selflessness. So by realizing the self being empty of substantial, self-supporting the existence, one will not achieve the liberation and one will not be free from the sufferings of the cycle of existence. So, whereas these two lower schools, including Chittamatrin school and the minor known as Manual school, assert self being truly existent or the person being truly existent. So Chittamatrin actually categorized the existence into three groups. So this is the other powered phenomena and the well-established phenomena are the truly existent, and then the all-imputed phenomena, or is known as all-imputed phenomena, is not truly existent. So the Chittamatrin view or the Chittamatrin school assert that all phenomena exist within the nature of mind. So that's where they assert this other powered phenomena and the well-established phenomena are truly existent. The reason they give for this is that they accept what is known as self-aware, like self-cognizing consciousness. So they assert that the existence of other powered phenomena and well-established phenomena can be proved because it is seen by this self-awareness consciousness or the self-cognizing consciousness.
세다 시바당 다니니 뭐 kelangema 보시오르스.
So likewise, there are,
다들 kelangega 다 보시오르스.
so in the similar way, there are also other schools who exert such theories that saying the phenomena are mere nature of mind.
다 던지베데 나르게 kelangega 말스.
So, this Prasangika Madhyamika school or this higher school of Buddhist thought, they do not exert or accept the self-cognizing consciousness. And they do not also exert this all phenomena being in the nature of mind. And also they do not accept the awareness, the blue and then the awareness of blue being oneness, empty of separate phenomena. So this self, the independent and the self, the self-supporting self, such the person being empty of self-supporting and substantial existence, they exert this gross level of selflessness. So they exert that if one realizes such a theory or such a view, one will be not free from a cycle of existence. So this Prasangika Madhyamika is higher than these views. Sorry, I made a mistake. This Sautrantika Madhyamika is a little higher than that of the Chittamatrin, because they exert that all phenomena do not exist truly. But then they say, although they do not exist truly, but they exist from their own side, from their own right. So then they have doubt, if the phenomena do not exist from their own side and from their own right, then it becomes a non-existent. They feel that they are falling into the extreme of nihilism. Because they are afraid, and when analytically searched on the basis of person, if you do not find a person, then it becomes a non-existent. So they develop